I just finished Wuchang Fallen Feathers, another Soulslike, another brutal adventure. But the big question is, was it a play, delay, or a stay away? Here's how it went for me. Going in, I didn't have sky high expectations. Honestly, I thought it'd be another budget Souls clone. But two things really caught my attention. Obviously I'm talking about the combat and the setting. I don't know what you're thinking. The game takes place in what I'd call the imperial times of the Ming Dynasty and has a fast fluid combat style with a big emphasis on dodges. A nice change from the medieval castles we're used to. That was enough to pull me in, and to its credit, the opening area actually does a good job of easing you into the world. Of course, the calm didn't last long, because once the real fight started, the game showed its teeth. Controls felt pretty good overall, though I did run into a weird hiccup. Using the quick tool menu would sometimes double the input, so I'd use an item twice, even though I only pressed once. Not ideal when a boss is breathing down your neck. But what impressed me more was how distinct each area felt. We went from lush greenery to an underground corruption lair, to icy wastelands, to towering military camps, then the world flips on its head into pure madness. Even the scenery itself starts to feel more hostile as the game ramps up in difficulty. Combat wise, I experimented more here than probably any other Souls-like. I started with the axe, great for staggering humanoids, but slow for mobile bosses. So I swapped to the dual blades. Nice and quick, but easy to be locked into long combos because of my just one more hit greed. By the end of Act 1, I switched to the longsword, and that's when I found my groove with the counter ability. And Wuchang's counter timing, easily the most forgiving I've seen in Souls-like. But halfway through, enemies caught on and started to counter my counters. Suddenly, we're back to the drawing boards. The game forces you to adapt, even nudging you to try other weapons. I would even end up trying the one-handed blade with magic buffs to snipe bosses who spent more time flying than fighting. The best part, you could respec at any time, so trying new builds never felt punishing. But even with that freedom, there were fights that really pushed me to my limits. The bosses were mostly fair, but Commander Honglan at the end of Act 1 was a real test. 19 deaths later, switching to the longsword with the counter ability finally got me through. Then came Mistress of the Night. My Tracy counters were useless against her Kung Fu, and her Corruption Ball spell insta-killed me if I stood too close. So I adapted and went full magic at range. But the boss that nearly broke me was Bow Sorcerer. 26 deaths, 2 hours. Pure pain. She'd dodge everything, fly away, drain my stamina while I chased her, and by the time I caught up, she was already gone. That fight tested every ounce of my patience, but finally, beating her was incredibly satisfying. The only real regret I had was missing out on the Demon of Obsession because of a late game choice. I really wanted that fight, but I guess that's how they get you to replay the game. And while the bosses were tough, the game had another thing that could have easily ruined the experience: performance. I played Wuchang on PC, and across my playthrough, I had 4 crashes, one of them being a blue screen. Not fun. But outside of that, it actually ran pretty well for me. I know a lot of players reported stutters and poor optimization, so performance seems to depend heavily on your setup. For me, it was mostly stable and it didn't ruin the experience. The stability gave me time to focus on what worked, and what didn't. On the positive side, I've got to give credit to the devs. When I first started, the get up mechanic was awful. You'd get stun-locked into oblivion with no recovery frames. A few weeks after launch, they patched it. Faster get up, a bit of invincibility, and a lot more fun. The biggest weakness though was exploration. Don't get me wrong, the branching paths are great for discovery, but it's way too easy to miss side quests or bosses. I almost missed Zhaoyun completely because I didn't see where the tomb was. And in Act 4, I missed a ton of side missions just because I didn't see an obscure path. For someone like me who usually only does one playthrough, that stings. It would be my dream if games like this had some sort of internal backup save at key points of no return. That way you could go back to see your alternative paths without having to start the game over again. And yeah, I know the purists would say that defeats the purpose, but this is my video, and that means I can complain about it. Still, even with those flaws, when the credits rolled, I knew exactly how I felt. In the end, Wuchang took me around 30 hours to finish, completely blind, and I enjoyed my time with it. The combat felt meaty, the build variety kept me engaged, and I may have spent more time than I'd like to admit, trying on all the different attires. So, was it worth playing? For me, yes. It doesn't reinvent the genre, but it's a fun, solid Souls-like, and a great first attempt from Lean Z. If you don't like Souls-like, this won't change your mind, but let's be real, no game will. But if you do like the genre, this is one to play. That's my story. What about you? How did you find the game? Let me know in the comments. And if you made it this far, you might enjoy this next video, but be quick, time's running out.